Get ready. You're listening to Give God 90 live.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
We are here live on a Thursday night. It's May the 7th. And once I get all this stuff straightened out and figured out where I'm at, what I'm doing, I'll tell you who I am and who you are and where we are and all that good stuff, right? My name is Jerry Mitchell, your host for Give God 90. We thank you so much for joining us. Sitting beside me, the dressed up Myra. Fancy. All kind of good stuff going on tonight. As folks are kind of getting things together so they can join us, and we have all this good stuff going on around us, making sure everything's good and right. Let me remind you about the website. Don't forget to go to givegod90.com. There's all kinds of fun stuff there. Well, fun stuff. Just go there and look around. You'll see what's going on. Hey, Francisco's got us tonight.
Hi, Francisco.
Glad to see you. Don't forget, there's a couple of books that if you... I don't think they're a cure for your insomnia. They're actually pretty good. Tradition of Truth and God's Universe, God's Rules, available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble. You know the advertisement, right? Wherever fine books are sold. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on YouTube. Your favorite podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks, Francisco. We're there. Funny thing, I got an email this week from Apple. Apple Podcasts now is everywhere, just about. And they sent me a notice and they said, we've added 20 more countries.
Oh, yay.
Funny thing is, I've already gotten messages from some of those countries. So they already hear us. They already know we're there.
Hi, Jay. Hi, Tina. Hi, Carol.
Oh, there they are. Okay. Hey, Jay. I'm looking at the wrong screen. I'm looking at, you're looking at the podcast Spreaker screen. I'm looking at because I wasn't sure where they were. Anyway. We've been where Apple is now. So they're following us for a change. That's kind of nice. I've never been on the cutting edge of something like that before. Something fun happened this week with Facebook, too. I actually got a warning from Facebook. Said, oh, something you shared is false, partly false news. And I looked at it, and what I shared was a link to a website for Liberty Counsel. Liberty Counsel, as you know, put out the story about Kansas City, Missouri, saying, we want you to tell us, churches, who are your congregants, send us all their information so we can keep track of them. And the reason it was partly false news was because Kansas City, hey, there's Carol. Kansas City said, no, you know what, this might not be a good idea after all. Because they realized that if they collected that information from the churches, they're going to have to collect that information from every store that everybody walked into. Mm-hmm. So they realized that just wasn't a good idea. There's Steve.
Hi, Steve.
Glad to see you. So as all of that come out, I thought, well, it was kind of odd because what I had was just a link to another website. And they're saying, well, it's partly false. Well, actually, it was true when it came out. They had they had threatened to do it. And that's what we were trying to do, was stop the threat. And it worked. So I'll take that hit. It's okay. That's a win. Anytime we can say, no, you're not persecuting the church, I don't care who you are, we win. It's that simple. Before I get to the heart and the meat of Psalm 1, people all around the world, people of faith all around the world, they often find themselves caught in kind of a catch-22 situation. And sometimes when you're in a situation where you have some authority, whether you're a military officer, police officer, elected sheriff, a deputy, whatever you might be, you always have this thing: do I do what my supervisor tells me, or do I do what God tells me? And some people struggle with that sometimes because, they're working for somebody that's paying their bills, right? Mm-hmm. But they know they've got to serve God too. Now, if a Christian or even a Jew finds themselves, in the military or police safe situation, they could be ordered to do something that's in conflict with what God says, right? It happens. It happened. We witnessed it in, I can't remember the name of where it was in Kentucky a few weeks ago. There's a problem now I know that in the United States, whether you're a military officer or whether you're in the military, I should say, you don't have to necessarily be an officer, but when you're in the military, whether you're a police officer, whether you're an elected sheriff or a sheriff's deputy, whatever authority you might have, you have to swear an oath of an allegiance, right? Mm-hmm. Okay? Most everybody I know that has done that probably memorized it when they did it. I know a couple of folks watching have. So here's what I want to think about. Now, other countries, some countries, when you swear an oath, you swear it to a person, whatever king, whatever dictator, queen in some cases, a dictator. That oath is sworn to a person. So whatever that person says, that's what goes. The United States isn't like that. We swear an oath to the Constitution of the United States. If you're a state authority, you swear not just to the Constitution of the United States, but whatever state you're in. And some go a little deeper. Some actually use the words and the people of whether it's the nation or the state. I know Delaware, if you are an elected official, the Constitution says, and the people of the state. So that's there. You swear this oath. Now, why is that important with what I'm going to be talking about in Psalm 1? 35, oh wow, it has been 35 years ago. When I had, hey, there's Sean watching. 35 years ago when I did this, those last 4 words of that oath that you took were extremely important, or they should have been extremely important, because the last 4 words of the oath that I took ended in "So help me God." Right? Mm-hmm. When I stood there and said, I will defend and uphold the Constitution of the United States and the state of Delaware, the people of the state of Delaware, so help me God, that was important. Mm-hmm. And it needs to be important. And it needs to be especially important in the time we live in right now. Because I need to speak directly. Hey, there's Deb. I need to speak directly to the law enforcement officers in the United States. Because you might be asked to do something a little weird. I watched a video today of a deputy sheriff. No, he was a sheriff. He was elected sheriff in Riverside County, California, who said, I am not going to enforce the laws or the policies that you say I have to enforce that violate the Constitution. I cannot do that. Kudos to that gentleman. The oath you took to uphold the Constitution and the state you work in, if your governor sends you out to do something, you really have to stop and think, is this what I want to do? Do I want to be in this conflict? We have that ability in the United States. Some places don't. Other countries, if you disobey a direct order, too bad. They're going to shoot you. It's that simple. But in the United States, if the oath you take to uphold and defend, work for the people, if you are instructed then to do something that violates that, how do I want to say this? There's only one way to say this. No one can force you to sin. Sin is a choice. Nobody can force you to sin. They can tell you to do something. It may violate what you believe in, but it's your choice whether you do it or not. You have that ability here. You can say, no, I can't do this. In my opinion, this violates. You tell me how this doesn't violate my oath of office, and then we'll talk about it. And it's important today especially, the things that people swear to uphold, your response, you've got to stand for your faith first. Oh, they're still in Maryland. I see they sold their house. That's good. That's good. You've got to be prepared. When I was in school, we learned about the shot heard around the world, right? Well, nobody knows who fired the first shot. Nobody knows who the first victim was. We don't live in that world anymore. We live in a completely different world. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying this because of some things that I've seen recently and read recently and questions that I've been asked recently. Law enforcement officers, be very, very careful when you go out and you try to enforce unconstitutional policy or unconstitutional dictates in the United States. Because you may find yourself either being the first victim or causing somebody else to be the first victim in what's coming.
That's right.
You don't want to do that. As a person of faith, and I've got to say, if they're listening to me, chances are they're a person of faith, you don't want to be in that situation. Don't put yourself in that situation. And that all comes down to Psalm 1. Because Psalm 1, well, you know what? Just read Psalm 1. And this comes from the International Children's Version, so it should be really easy. It starts there and goes all the way to there.
Happy is the person who doesn't listen to the wicked. He doesn't go where sinners go. He doesn't do what bad people do. He loves the Lord's teachings. He thinks about those teachings day and night. He is strong, like a tree planted by a river. It produces fruit in season. Its leaves don't die. Everything he does will succeed. But wicked people are not like that. They are like useless chaff that the wind blows away. So the wicked will not escape God's punishment. Sinners will not worship God with good people. This is because the Lord protects good people, but the wicked will be destroyed.
All right. Why did I start out with that warning to law enforcement? And then we talk about happy is the person who doesn't listen to the wicked. Because if you don't listen to people telling you to hurt other people without good reason, without just cause, unless somebody who is an innocent person is in severe distress, you don't want to interfere with life, liberty, and all of those things, the blessings that God gives to us, right?
That's right.
But there's more to this than even that. David says in a very short way, almost the Cliff Notes description, what Moses demonstrates on two mountains. Okay, we have Mount Gerizim and we have Mount Ebal. Now, this comes from Deuteronomy 27 and 28. And Mount Gerizim, of course, announces all of the blessings, that the Levites shout out, the people respond. Mount Ebal announces all of the curses. David starts out with the blessing part. He says, look, happy is the person who doesn't listen to the wicked, the evil. Now, I kind of like the International Children's Bible in this space because they get it right. A lot of your translations, Jay said on Spreaker, there are a lot of sheriffs that have said that. That's good. I like him. He's a good dude. They need to keep him down there. Wish Delaware had a sheriff like that. We don't. We don't have that opportunity. Where was I? David, in using this word, he could have used a lot of words, but he chose a very special word. And a lot of translations translate blessed is the man, or blessed is the person who doesn't stand in the counsel of evil, or something like that. But that's not the word David used. Typically, for blessed, you're going to hear Baruch, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, just like the beginning of every Hebrew blessing, Baruch atah Yehovah Eloheinu melech haolam. Mm-hmm. Blessed are you, Yehovah our God, King of the universe. So instead, David could have used that word, but he didn't. David uses the word eser. And it kind of means blessed, but not in the way that Baruch does. It more means happy. You're just not the kind of happy-go-lucky kind of a thing, but you're joyful. You're confident. You are, this day went right kind of a thing. It's not like I want to be, what's a silly happy? You know what I'm talking about?
Just like,
yeah, it's not like that.
Not that.
It's you are content. You're at peace. You're at rest. You're all of the good stuff that comes with it. Mm-hmm. But being blessed is a little bit different. So David chose this almost as a play on words. Okay, and in Hebrew, if you listen to this psalm in Hebrew, and depending on who's singing it, it starts out really kind of cool. And there's probably hundreds of versions of this out there. But it actually starts out, Asari Haish Asher, that kind of singy, songy, pleasant, easygoing kind of thing. David starts out really nice and really, he wants this thing to flow. He wants it to be just a statement of pleasure. He wants you to be comforted when he starts this out. I know a lot of modern Hebrew music might give this a different melody or a different rhythm. But here's the thing. Because of the way this starts out, a lot of people believe that the entire book of Psalms is just a really nice book of poetry. It's just a really nice, it's a songbook. It's just a Jewish songbook, right? Wrong.
Wrong.
David is very prophetic. He listens, and by prophetic, I mean the biblical definition. He's not a fortune teller. That's what a lot of people think prophecy is. Mm. It's not telling the future. Prophecy is hearing directly from the throne room and then doing what you're told or saying what you're told to say. And that's exactly what David did. Happy is the man which. David kind of knows how to get your attention there. Even in English, it gets your attention. Do you want to be happy? Everybody wants to be happy. Nobody wants to be sad. So he starts out, happy is the man who doesn't listen to the wicked. Happy is the man who doesn't go where sinners go. Happy is the one who doesn't do what bad people do, as the International Children's Bible puts it. Mm-hmm. And I kind of like that. He says he loves the Almighty's teachings. He loves his instructions. He grasps them. And David writes probably more about the Creator's instruction than any other prophet. The entire book of Psalms is long. Let's face it. Mm-hmm. Psalm 119 is the longest one there is.
It is.
And David spends a lot of time concentrating on that. And he uses these analogies. He's like a strong tree. He gets plenty of water. Boy, there's a metaphor that follows all the way through Scripture, isn't it? It produces fruit when it needs to. it doesn't die off. And everything that fella does, he will succeed.
Mm-hmm.
Then David kind of changes his tone almost in midstream. He says, Lochan ha saim. And it's almost spoken in all of the ones that I listen to. Not so for the wicked, not so for the criminal. Because verse 4 of Psalm 1 says the wicked people aren't like that. He just describes what happy people are, how successful they are. He just describes how all of this goes. Mm-hmm. And then he says, but the wicked people aren't like that. Excuse me. They don't understand. They don't see. They don't get to go where the good folks go. They don't do the things good folks do. They're useless. Mm-hmm. When you grow grain like barley and wheat is the flower on top of like a stem of grass, right? It comes up and you have the thing at the top where you get your fruit. Everything else is basically chaff. It's wasted. Unless you're keeping the stalk for bedding for something or using it for some animals will eat it. But it blows away. It's useless. It's done. It's over with. And he goes on, so the wicked will not escape God's punishment. That's because a lot of the times that chaff isn't even used. They know it's so useless they won't use it for animal food. They'll just burn it. That's how useless it is. The wicked will not escape God's punishment. Sinners will not worship God with the good people. Think about that. When was the last time? Now, I know we're all sinners, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
We are.
But that's not what David's saying.
Right.
He's saying the evil will not worship. It's that simple. Because they won't. Mm-hmm. Now, somebody who's searching, somebody who doesn't realize, who doesn't know, that's different. Mm-hmm. They're not completely evil. They're looking, they're searching, they're trying to figure out where they fit in all this. But what David's saying here is that flat out evil people, they won't set foot in a church. They wouldn't go, they wouldn't do, they don't care. They stand in opposition to the Creator, and I have spoken about that at length before. This is because the Almighty protects good people. And sometimes the way He protects good people might not be the way we think He ought to protect good people, is it?
No.
Sometimes the way He protects good people is He takes them off of this planet.
Mm-hmm. He does.
Sometimes the way He protects good people is He confuses their mind so they don't know what's going on. Mm-hmm. We see a lot of times children born, they seem like really nothing's wrong with them, right? Mm-hmm. Next thing you know, they've developed some type of what's a good word? A good way to say it?
Like a mental disorder?
I don't want to say disorder, like a mental block. Okay. Something occurs. We have a lot of words for it today, and it all falls under this aspect of autism or something like that. And that might not necessarily be what people think it is. Mm-hmm. Because it may be that the Almighty is using that child for something.
Or protecting that
child from something. The man that was born blind, they asked Yeshua, why was this man born blind? Did he sin or did his parents sin? He said, nobody sinned. He was born blind to show the glory of the Almighty. And we look at that phrase and we say, wait a minute, that doesn't fit. That doesn't fit. It doesn't fit the way we think. Mm-hmm. But then again, we don't think like God thinks, do we?
No.
So as these people have some very special needs, they may have been born this way to give someone who is able to care for that person the opportunity to do it. That may be. God may be protecting them from something that would have happened otherwise. We don't know. There's no way of knowing that. There's no way of knowing why in the world somebody may be born blind. There's no way in the world of us being able to tell why somebody may be crippled for 38 years other than to give the Almighty the glory. The thing is, we don't always need to understand it.
That's right.
We just simply need to do what we need to do. I talked one time about prayer, and I said intercessory prayer is extremely important. And, if people can't speak, and the question was asked, well, if somebody can't speak, then God must be able to hear their prayer in their head, right? And no, not necessarily. If they can't speak, maybe you need to be the one to pray for that person and say, I don't know what the purpose of this is. I don't know why I'm here to do this, but, Father, you do. Whatever you need to do, you do. You have permission to interact and intercede in this person's life. See, that's what we're for. That's where we come in. That's where we come in. But all of these things are there for our opportunity to glorify the Almighty. It's not to make us feel good. It's not always for us to understand. And it's certainly not always for us to figure out. Because some of these things I have no clue about. And that's for sure I have no clue about. But other times we look around and we say, oh, I know exactly why this person's like this. Or I know exactly what happened to that person. Some things are easy to see, some things aren't easy to see. A lot of us know people who've been injured in accidents. We know too many, really. And it could very well be, Carol, never thought about things Thank you, Carol. I appreciate that. We think about, why did that have to happen to such a young person? We know I don't want to say we were involved because we weren't anywhere near it. We were there to clean up the aftermath with one of the families of the survivor. 4 teenagers in a terrible accident. 3 of them died, 1 survived, and she is permanently paralyzed. Why did that happen? I have a very sneaky suspicion to protect her innocence, because there were a lot of other things that kept her alive that had been done prior to that accident that kept her from, actually saved her life.
Right.
So probably to protect her innocence at that point, because otherwise she would have been killed just along with the others. That's a terrible thing to say, but really, until we finally get to the other side and get some answers, that we have to accept that the Almighty was looking out for her, because there's just no way that any other thing could have been there for that.
Right.
So when we see these things, when we meet people with what we think are disabilities, they're not always disabilities. And it doesn't matter whether it's a mental challenge or whether it's a physical challenge or whatever it might be. Our job at that point becomes, well, how does this glorify the Almighty? And when we look at it that way, it changes your whole outlook. David's Psalms, right from the beginning, give feeling, they give emotion. They're more than just simple poems. They're more than just these songs to please God. And that's what David's portrayed as. Everybody wants to see David with that little 4-string lyre harp. And oh, isn't it just wonderful? They get this picture of David sitting there with the sheep. No.
That is not it.
That's not it. Yes, Carol, everything does happen for a reason. And nothing happens without the Almighty's approval either. Isaiah 45. I think it's in Isaiah 45 where he says he brings good and he also brings calamity, or he allows calamity. He brings good and allows calamity, depending on what translation you read. It's in there. I think it's in chapter 45. I think that's where it's at. But yes, everything happens for a reason. David uses his ability, he uses his skills that he was born with, because he wants to create something in who the listener or the reader is getting from his writing. He wants that emotion to come out. And when you start out, oh, what's it take to be happy? Oh, isn't that wonderful? And then he just kind of slaps you in the face with, but not for the wicked. Not for the wicked. So, I had in my notes something, and I'm going to read it. There are denominations out there, okay? And when somebody goes to church the first time and they say, oh, yes, this is great, boy, they do the thing, and they hand them, the Gospel of John, right? Everybody gets the Gospel of John. Well, that doesn't make sense for a new believer, in my opinion. Because John, if you understand what he was writing, he's writing to Jewish people, and he's using the events surrounding Passover to describe who Yeshua is. And people get confused with that. If you really want somebody to know who the Creator is, give them a book of Psalms. Because that's going to show them who he is and what he can do and how important it is to be willing to give your entire self over to him. If you really, really, really want to know who God is, read the Psalms. It's that simple. And it all starts with a really short one. Psalm 1 is kind of short. It's kind of easy. And it's okay. Use the International Children's Version or International Children's Bible if you need to. It's okay. You have my permission to read that one. It's not going to be 100% all the time, but it gets you on the right track. And it's kind of easy to read too, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So, sorry, Sean, these are the same mics, same place, same everything, but I really do like it sounding better, so good.
That's good.
How's the lighting? Is lighting better? Because I know you were talking about it being dark. I did change that up just a little bit. So maybe the new light or the different lights make me sound better. That could be. That could be. Is there anything else? I'm at the end of my notes. So, oh, cool, good deal. Glad to hear it.
Great.
By the way, Sean, I missed you. You did a live today, and I missed it because I was outside. And I hopefully get to that maybe tomorrow morning. I hope. But I had, grass is growing around here. I had to go mow, and I can't hear on that mower when so it's all good. I'll get to it. Trust me. Don't overlook Psalms. Don't overlook Psalms. It's important. It's more than just a songbook. It's more than just poetry. This stuff's important. It wouldn't be there. The Almighty wouldn't have given David these words if it wasn't important. It's that simple. So, because that's what it boils down to. So, do you have anything to add? No.
No. Just
You've been awful. You've been awful quiet tonight.
Just thanking everybody for listening.
You doing another one either tonight or tomorrow night? Cool.
All right.
Cool. Hope it's not too late because I'm tired. Everybody, I hope you have the opportunity. If you don't listen, make sure you pay attention to Dr. Sean Michael Greener. He is on Facebook. He's on Spreaker as well.
He's under the Ninja Pastor?
I think it's still the Ninja Pastor on Spreaker. So give him a listen. His book, his new book.
We love you too.
is on top of things. And he's going through that every once in a while. He's doing a great job with it. I think I have covered everything I needed to cover. So until next week, I wish you many, 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 many blessings. I hope that the Almighty blesses you, protects you, takes
Yes.
care of you. Don't forget to read the Psalms. Good night, everyone.
Good night.